when I was growing up, it was kind of weird to be flexible. Like, you got made fun of as a guy. Is it still like that?
Yeah, people think I'm gay. to put it bluntly, yeah. But I'm married. I have a kid. I'm as straight as they come. But yeah, it comes across as very vulnerable. Like if you're trying to touch your toes with locked out knees, your butt is out there for everyone to see. It also doesn't help that a lot of the times in these videos I wear some pretty short shorts. Probably should like change my wardrobe a little bit.
All right, welcome back to the Digital Social Hour, guys. I'm your host, Sean Kelly. Here my co-host, Charlie Cavalier, and our guest today, David Thurin. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good, man. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Do you think you could be flexible and strong at the same time? Because I see this misconception that you can't.
Yeah, you absolutely can. It's if life was a video game, you could put stats in both strength and flexibility. So that's the way I like to frame it. But you definitely can build one and the other. There's people on Instagram that I see that that they're over there deadlifting close to 700 pounds or even above 700 pounds, and they're almost at or are at a full split.
Really?
These guys are crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah, so like...
That's nuts.
Yeah.
I can't do either one of those things.
No.
Yeah, well, me either. I mean, I could do a split, mate. Yeah, but not the deadlifting 700 pounds.
Yeah.
But
How
yeah.
did... Oh, go ahead.
Do you think too much training for sports goes into strength instead of flexibility? Like, is there a disproportionate amount of focus on what you're doing?
Well, it depends on what your goal is, really. Like for a football player, it's probably a good idea to train a lot of explosivity, which is why those guys can jump like really high, like NBA level. But people don't know that because they're on a field sprinting. Mm-hmm. But a lot of those guys, you'll see them jumping over other football players almost in a full split. So there is value to flexibility, but let's say you're a pool player at a professional level, you probably don't need your full splits. So it just depends on your goal. Yeah.
What are some stretches you do daily, like that you recommend other people do?
This month, I've stretched once.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought that was like your daily routine.
Yeah, that's what people think. But you actually, so there's a difference between trying to gain flexibility and maintaining flexibility. I'm in a maintaining phase right now. Eventually, I'll probably go for like over splits and stuff like that. But I only need to stretch like once a month to maintain my skill level right now.
Holy
for full bend, front, middle splits. Yeah.
That makes me feel better because I thought you needed to do it daily.
That's what everybody thinks. That's the huge misconception. Like you could, if you were to train like a bodybuilder, build up all this muscle and then just completely switch, and now like you're a professional pool player now, but you're like this jacked bodybuilder guy, you're not just going to lose all that muscle unless you stop training altogether. But if you train once or twice at a very high intensity every week, you're going to maintain that.
Okay.
And it's the same thing with flexibility.
Wow.
Yeah.
But when you were training it, what were some things you were doing daily?
So there's two approaches you could do it. You could approach it through a skill aspect, like you could train specific skills, or you could treat it like, again, the bodybuilder who does every little muscle group separately. I did a little bit of both because I obviously wanted to get to my splits. So it's like the bits, the pieces, and then the whole. So you stretch your hamstrings, and then you stretch your hip flexor, and then you stretch them both together, and then you go and try and do your split. So every single routine, if you were to do it daily, that's what it would look like.
And how many months did it take you to achieve a full split?
A middle split took me probably about a full year, a year and a half, maybe even 2 years. But that was because I was very, very inconsistent. Knowing what I know now, and if I was consistent, I could definitely have achieved it in less than 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That was just the difference between knowing what to do and what not to do.
So do you feel like if you wanted to, you could specifically target, muscle X to get more flexibility, and you can like, are you going for overall mobility flexibility, or are you like isolating muscles or tendons that you specifically want to?
It depends. So for me, I really like the skills, like the splits and stuff. So I train them like that. But they're obviously, like when I very first started, I was like, I need to touch my toes. That's the very first step. Right. So I obviously was very, very centered on hamstring flexibility. But you could do it both ways. If you were to work on getting to your front split, you're going to be able to touch your toes eventually because you're basically working on both at the same time.
Is it true you're able to squat more by increasing your ankle flexibility?
Yes and no. It depends on your genetics. Like some people have really long torsos and really short femurs, and that is the ultimate squat. Like that's the lottery right there, because your knee doesn't even have to go past your toe at all, and you're already in a deep squat. But if you were somebody who has a really, really short torso and really, really long femurs, your knee has to go way past your toe in order for you to get that deep squat. So it literally depends on the shape of your body. But generally, ankle mobility will really, really, really help your squat.
And it'll help prevent sprained ankles, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I've seen people walking on the sides of their ankles like normal.
Are you serious?
Yeah, you could probably do it, right?
Yeah, I can do that. One of those things that I pull out every once in a while, it's like one of those viral things I do in my videos, is I'll like squat down and then I'll roll both of my ankles at once and I'll just be fine. Yeah,
he's sitting on his ankles.
I just like that we're both on team mismatched shoes.
Yeah, we're mismatched shoes here.
We're team mismatched shoes, so I love this.
It drives conversation. It's good for videos too. People comment about it. Yeah.
Yep. We gotta get Sean on that.
Yeah, one day. What are the health benefits of your sort of philosophy on this lifestyle?
So, one of those quotes that you hear is it's by Joseph Pilates, the guy who made Pilates, but he said you're only as old as your spine is. And if your spine is stiff, then you're old, and if your spine is flexible, then you're young. Because when you're stiff, you don't have the ability to move, and movement is what gives your body the signal to put synovial fluid in your joints, to get blood flow to your joints, which has all the nutrients that heal things. So it's really okay, there's a give and a take, because if I'm just going to train my ankle flexibility all the time, it's probably not going to affect my health all that much. But if I train my spinal flexibility, it's probably going to affect me a lot long term, positively. So. And
what are some exercises to train that? Because I've never heard of that.
Yeah, in the gym, most of your training is just in line with a neutral spine, but I purposefully do the opposite of that. So, there's no such thing as a bad exercise as long as you have load management. Meaning, if I'm like trying to deadlift 300 pounds and my back is rounding, that's probably terrible for my back. I might herniate a disc. Who knows what I'll do. But if I lower the weight and I could do it probably with close to 200 pounds at this point, but I probably would use less, like around 100 pounds, and I rounded my spine on purpose, I could train spinal flexion under load safely. So it's all about load management. So you just pick all of the ranges of motion out there. So there's twisting, there's forward and back, and if you can do all of those under a little bit of weight, and not a lot of weight, just a little bit of weight, and you will build up those capacities over time.
Interesting. I've never heard of training your spine like that.
Yeah, no, me neither. But I need it badly. And I was gonna ask, I sit at a desk all day. I know you sit at a desk a decent amount of time too. What are like the number one things that guys like us sitting down at a computer all day? We get lower back pain. We get the behind the shoulder blade pain, stuff like that. What do we do?
Move as much as possible. That's literally the answer. Like I said earlier, it's all about the more you move, the more blood flow and the more synovial fluid gets put into all your joints, and the less pain you'll experience. A lot of people like to harp on posture, and they're like, posture. But the latest evidence shows that posture isn't really correlated with back pain. So your next posture is your best posture. So always be thinking about, like, every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it's time to switch it up a little bit, Move your spine a little bit. If you take 10-minute breaks every now and then, get your hips through a full range of motion. So it's basically all about getting the most amount of movement as possible. That's all it is.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
How many steps a day do you move?
How many steps a day?
Yeah.
It depends on the day. Right now, it's like deplorable. It's like 4,000. For me, that's bad. But this time, last year, believe it or not, I was working in FedEx while I was grinding all these videos.
Yeah.
And I was doing like 30,000 steps a day.
Holy
wow.
So,
crap.
Yeah, I've done both, and either way, I feel pretty healthy. So.
Isn't it supposed to be closer to 10,000, they say?
Yeah, they say 10,000 is the mark. More is better, but it starts to like tail off, and then your benefits get less and less and less and less and less.
Right.
But hey, 4,000 steps is better than 3,000 steps. So the point is just move, walk as much as possible. Especially like if you have breaks, if you like any of that, just move as much as possible.
Yeah, we live such sedentary lifestyles these days.
Yeah. It's so easy with the devices, the social media.
I used to live in my bed for like a month. Like,
yeah.
We've all gone through that phase, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I was actually homeschooled growing up, And most of my education, I would just say, was YouTube, because I avoided my schoolwork and was mostly on YouTube. There wasn't a lot of movement involved then. I was just, watching videos.
Right.
So.
You probably learned more from that than school, at least.
Yeah, I went to college, and I was kind of I had a lot of common sense and a lot of logic, just because I just grew up that way. But I had already read books on books on books on books by the time I got to college, that I kind of felt like I don't like this scene anymore, so I just kind of dropped out.
I feel that.
Yeah.
So what are you doing these days?
All of my focus right now is just on the content and the videos. That's
Yeah.
literally the only thing I do right now.
How many videos are you dropping a day?
A day? That's funny. I drop probably 15 to 20 a month.
Okay. So
Yeah.
almost one a day.
Yeah, but it's complicated now because I'm married and I also have a 6-month-old baby now. So my time is very, very valuable to me, and I split it between the two, obviously.
And how do you monetize the content? Is it just off the views, the ad revenue?
Yeah, literally, I just get a lot of views, and the pennies they pay me for the views is enough to pay my rent. That's literally it. And then the latest thing is I have a joint health supplement that's available for purchase, and then that is probably about half of my revenue right now.
Oh, nice.
So.
Yeah, I want to dive into that. What got you into that space, supplement space?
Yeah, so that was back when I was working in FedEx, and I really, really wanted to just make money and get out of FedEx and just focus on the content. And I was approached by some guys through my email. I got to know them, and I was like, wow, like we could really make this is actually a really cool thing. And there's a giant hole in the market for joint health supplements, because the main ingredient is glucosamine and chondroitin. And in the studies, they would have these patients take 500 milligrams 3 times a day. So that's a lot. That's a lot. But if you go to a store and get a joint health supplement, a good portion of them are going to have 50 milligrams and say take it once or twice a day. So there's a huge gap there. So the amount of stuff that I put into this joint health supplement doesn't fit in a pill, so it's a drink. And there's a hole in the market. So why don't we do that? So that's what I put out there. So
Interesting.
Is there something you avoid putting in your body?
So it's complicated for me because I have a lot of health and like autoimmune disorders. I have asthma, allergies. You can even see a little bit of red spots up here. I have psoriasis.
Jeez.
This is the best it's ever been, believe it or not. It used to cover my entire forehead. So I avoid gluten, dairy. But the 2 worst things for me right now are corn and soy.
Wow.
Those 2 things I avoid. I couldn't really tell you the science behind it, but I can tell you what happens to me when I eat it. When I have soy, like let's say it's like a chocolate bar with like soy lecithin in it. It's like a little like an emulsifier. I'll eat it. Within 5 minutes, maybe even less, I'll start to feel it going through my veins. I feel it in my body. Yeah. Wow. And then my brain will start to get foggy. And then sometimes, depending on if it's corn or soy, I'll start to get like an asthma attack. And
Jesus.
And it'll actually affect me for at least the rest of the week.
Oh my gosh, the rest of the week?
Yeah, but I've had reactions last several months.
Ooh.
Several months?
Yeah.
It just paralyzes you at that point, basically.
It's really bad. And it's terrible for content because it attacks my brain. I get brain fog.
Right.
And then if I have brain fog, how am I supposed to come up with the next viral idea? I'm just not. It's just I'm going to make bad content.
What's the most views you've gotten on one video?
On YouTube, I made a video on how to break an apple in half with your bare hands. Yeah. And it got 30 million views.
How do you break?
I'm curious.
How do you break an apple?
It's literally it's just the way you do it. As long as so the top of the apple is in the palm of your hands and your fingers are on the bottom. You don't use your fingernails. You just squeeze it as hard as you can, and then you use just the friction of your palms to pull it apart, and it will pull apart if you have the right apple.
We'll have to try this later tonight.
Yeah, we'll have to try it. Does it have to be like an older apple, like more soft?
No. You want a crispier apple.
Oh, crispier.
Honey Crisp is like a really crisp type of apple. If you can get a Honey Crisp apple, they're the easiest to crack.
It sounds hard, but I'm down to try it.
I want to try it. It'd be fun. I like those videos where they put things in the hydraulic press and see how much they can take it. That kind of reminds me of your squishing the... So is there a stretch or a thing that you want to get to that you haven't done yet?
So my back bend is not that great.
What is it? Remember, I'm not flexible. What is a back bend?
So a back bend is when, like, let's say you were laying on your back on the floor. Your hands are right here, and you just push your pelvis into the air, and you're in arch, but you're backwards. Yeah. That's a back bend.
Okay.
My back bend, I can do a back bend. I could even, without starting on the floor, I can kind of fall into a back bend. But my back bend is not that great. And that's because when I was working at FedEx, I actually injured my lower back really, really bad. Yeah, and that took probably 6 months to recover from before I could even start working on my back bend
Holy
again.
Did they give you a bag at least? Like, that's 6 months off.
I earned a bag, but
Okay.
I never told them about the injury. I probably
What?
should have, just never did. And man, my wife was pregnant at the time. I needed this money. I did not want to risk taking time off
fired.
or anything like that.
Mhm.
So I was just, head to the grindstone. That's just who I was. That's what I did. Don't recommend that, but that's what I did.
Was it on a heavy package? You just screwed up your back? like,
Yeah.
trying to
So
lift it?
there's these several belts. There's like really light packages, and then there's this huge belt. It's called NCs. They're non-conveyable. That's what it is, because they're these big packages. And there's this giant couch coming down. You're supposed to team lift, so you get 2 people. But I was like, I'll just do it myself. And I was already like 6 hours into a shift, so I was tired.
Right.
And I pulled back, arched my back, and twisted
Ooh.
without bracing my core at all. And then pop, my back went out. And I
Holy.
toughed it out through the rest of the shift, but after that it was all downhill. It was really
Then throwing your back. I mean, if you've never had back problems, you don't understand. Like throwing
Not
your
like
back
that.
out, you're done.
Yeah.
it's so bad.
Isn't
Yeah.
Ben Simmons struggling with that?
Yeah, and like you can't even get up out of bed. Like you literally go to do a sit up to get out of bed, and you
Yeah.
can't even. I mean, I've been there before. But
Wow.
I've thrown my back out.
So
It
back's
sucks.
probably one of the worst body parts to injure.
I would say the back and the neck.
The neck
If
is
we're
bad,
not
too.
going to count like knees and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the back is probably, I would say it's the worst one because it affects everything.
Anything with the spine,
Anything
like you were
with the-
saying.
Yeah, exactly. Anything to do with the spine, because you tweak your back, any movement you do in life involves your spine.
Wow.
Even sitting at a desk, you're like immobilized, but you move your shoulder, you twisted your spine a little bit. Oh, that's pain.
Oh, so you couldn't even sit.
It was difficult to do pretty much anything, yeah.
Jeez. Yeah,
Yeah.
back's got to be the worst then.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
even sleeping probably hurts at that point.
Yep.
Yeah, but people that are listening, you can recover from it. You need somebody either good to help you with it, or you just need to just start moving. That's the very first step.
Well, while we
Move.
have them on the hook, let's remind them where to find you so that they can get some help with it.
Yeah, I look up Movement by David. You can find me anywhere.
Okay.
I have videos on back pain. No long form videos on it yet, but in the future, very shortly, I will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw one of your videos was talking about the core.
Yes.
You're able to get like a really strong core.
Yeah.
But you have a unique take on it. You weren't doing crunches, right?
Yeah, so there's 2 main exercises I do for core. It's called compression and then any type of planking that I do. And then I obviously work on my core through almost everything I do, but those are the 2 main exercise types that I do. If you're familiar with an L-sit, it's when you're pushing yourself off of the ground and you're elevating your legs with locked out knees
Mhm.
and your feet are off of the ground. So you're basically sitting and you're lifting your feet up just like that.
Yeah.
So it's really, really hard to do because you have a long lever. Your legs are way out there. It's
Yeah.
pulling you forward, but you have to flex your core in a very, very short position.
Oh.
So it's easier to use your core in a long position, but when it's already shortened, your muscle, it's like your bicep. If you're right here, you can't really flex it any further because
Right.
it's already, it's called, it's like reciprocal inhibition, I believe it's what it's called. It's when your
Jeez.
muscle is very, very, very short. So I train it in that really, really short position so I can get better at that.
Mm.
And then the other one is just plank variations. There's the plank on your elbows.
Mhm.
You can go up on your hands. And then if you really wanted to make it even harder, you can move your hands further away from you with a perfectly flat body.
Mm.
You can look up Bruce Lee plank and you'll find that.
I'm not surprised.
I
you did
taught
that.
him everything he knows.
Exactly. There you go.
Can you do a 1-finger push-up?
I cannot do it. Well, maybe 2 fingers, like thumb and this finger, I
Yeah.
could probably do, but
Wow.
no 1 finger.
That's still
push-ups.
impressive.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I
I've
could
never
do a-
tried it before.
I could do a
so.
clap push-up, but I feel like those are easy.
So do you feel like anything that you'll ever do will have some sort of like, forgive me for asking like an Evel Knievel question, but like some sort of death-defying, like where if you don't pull the stretch off, you're going to fall off the building, or if you don't pull the stretch off, you're not going to be able to escape the hatch and you're going to drown or something like. Sorry to be a little bit morbid, but you know. Yeah.
I don't think I'll be exploring anything like that. But,
Okay.
But I do plan on taking flexibility to a pretty crazy level.
Mhm.
But I also simultaneously I want to bring up my lifts as well.
Mhm.
Like you look at me, I'm a skinny guy. I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm not a power lifter. But I feel like bringing up my lifts would bring a little bit more credibility to me as a pertinent person in the fitness industry. And if I do that while bringing up my flexibility even further than it already is,
Yeah.
it's an anomaly. It's not out there yet.
Yeah.
At least not with the content creation skills to boot. So.
Yeah. When I was growing up, it was kind of weird to be flexible. Like, you got made fun of as a guy. Is it
Yeah.
still like that?
Yeah, people think I'm gay. To put it bluntly, yeah. But I'm married. I have a kid. I'm as straight as they come. But Yeah, it comes across as very vulnerable. Like if you're trying to touch your toes with locked out knees, your butt is out there for everyone to see. It also doesn't help that a lot of the times in these videos I wear some pretty short shorts. Probably should like change my wardrobe a little bit.
Well, and anybody who thinks that flexibility makes you gay probably isn't watching a whole lot of sports.
Yeah.
Because I mean, those guys we had two NBA
guys.
players in here today,
Yeah.
both of which gave two shits about how strong you were. Or how much you bulked up, but they cared about what, like your body, stability, your flexibility, what you're capable of, everything like that.
Yeah, it's a shame that I got bullied for like even stretching. It's super weird. But.
Yeah, I feel like the mentality nowadays is a little bit different. It's a little bit further away from all like the bullying around it, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
my
glad
job
you're on
to
the
fix.
forefront of it because someone had to take the heat, I guess.
Yeah, there's no flexibility person in my shoes right now, at least content creation wise. There's another creator out there, Anna McNulty. She has a YouTube channel, but it's very, very girly, very, very girly.
Right.
So it's not something that like if I were to get into flexibility and I hadn't been where I am, I there's no way I would ever watch a video of hers. But she gets views. But
is your audience all girls?
No, surprisingly, it's 50-50.
Okay.
Really? Okay.
On all platforms, it is 50% men, 50% women.
Wow, that's more than I thought.
I would have guessed.
guys.
I would have guessed differently, but yeah. So do you think that is some of the stuff you're doing? Does it fit all for men and women, or do you think that some of the stretches you're doing are more for like guys?
I am a guy, so I speak for guys.
Right.
But everything I do is also applicable to women. So I would say it's definitely applicable to both. Anybody can reach what I've done, at least with my body, either male or female. Okay. The only difference that I would say, like in something like a back bend, it might be a little bit harder for a guy just because we have a higher center of gravity on average than women do.
Right.
So the skills might look a little different between men and women, but at the end of the day, it's the same. Anybody can do it. Yeah.
Other than the back injury, have you had any other crazy injuries?
Well, I jumped off a light pole not that long ago, and I smashed my foot into the floor. And the bottom of my foot is actually I can even show you guys.
This sounds like something you would
Wait,
do,
yeah,
Charlie.
I just asked about death-defying stuff.
Yeah. It's still take the dogs
Which
out.
part
Oh
of
my
it?
It's still
God.
completely purple right there. I can show you.
Whoa.
That. Yeah, it's really bad.
When was this?
This was 2 weeks ago. I think.
Wait a
It's
minute.
still
I
that
just
purple?
asked you if you're doing Evil Knievel shit, and you
Oh,
said
okay.
no.
I do it on the regular. I
And
jump
then
off of
followed it
shipping
up with,
containers
I
and light
jumped
poles.
off a light pole?
Yeah. Okay. I guess that
We need some
answered that right.
context for why did you jump off a light pole?
Well, this is a great story. I wanted to teach people how to land properly without getting hurt.
How'd that go?
It went very well, but with a different video title. So yeah, it's I think I tore a bit of my plantar fascia. It's gonna take a while to recover from, but I can walk on it now.
Okay.
And that's due to me not following all the advice out there and just rehabilitating.
What
right
advice are you talking about?
The main advice out there is RICE, rest, ice, compress,
Yeah,
elevate.
yeah.
That was created by a guy, I believe his last name is Merkin, in like 1978.
Yeah.
But in 2014, he actually recanted that advice. And the reason why.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. So the reason why is everything in that rest. It's so that you don't do anything with your foot if you hurt it. Ice, it's to get rid of the inflammation and the pain. Compress, it's to squeeze the inflammation out of the area. And elevate, it's so that your blood doesn't pump to that area.
Right.
All of which does the opposite of help you heal.
Oh
The
my
exact
We
opposite.
were lied to.
Yeah, because I have a bad
Yeah.
knee and I was told rice my entire life growing up.
Ignore
Bruh.
that information
It's too
completely.
late, but
Yeah. So
Wow.
what I did for my foot is I got off of it completely, let it do its thing for a couple days, but then I started testing it. I started moving my toes, I started moving my ankle, moving my foot, and then I started limping on it a little bit, but then I would go back to the crutches, limp on it a little bit. Basically, walk it off.
Yeah.
Walk it off.
Walk it off.
Yeah.
Rub some dirt in it.
Exactly. Yeah, so right now what I'm experimenting with is I'm just standing on the ball of my foot and balancing now. That's my rehab
Okay.
right now. So isometrics is what
Right.
I'm doing. Because if there's a tear in there, I don't want to make it worse. So jumping is going to be the worst thing for it because that could cause further tearing. Isometrics is going to tell my body to heal it.
Wow.
Slow movement will tell my body to heal it and get blood flow there.
So you're not even going to get an x-ray. You're just going to self-heal.
I got an x-ray. They couldn't find any broken bones.
Okay.
But I think it's soft tissue damage because I think it's my plantar fascia or a muscle in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But I am getting a CT scan up here real soon just to
I was going to ask about an
Hedge
MRI
my
or
bets
something
and-
like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
So
CT
how-
scan.
How high up was the light pole? Like
It wasn't like a street lamp, like those really tall
That's
ones.
what I was picturing.
Oh,
like,
that's what I was picturing.
So it wasn't 25 feet up there. Like if those 25 or 30, however far that was, like halfway down. So it was like a 15-foot light pole. And
So
I
about a
jumped from the
story.
top. Yeah, a little bit higher than a story, I'd say.
Okay.
And I jumped off that, landed right on my heel. And then because I was so focused on the camera angle and my lines, as a content creator, that I jumped off, and halfway down I was like, wait, I got to roll now because that's what I'm supposed to do.
No.
But I was already going with a little bit of backward momentum.
Yeah.
So I smack and I rolled backwards.
Oh.
And yeah, so the rest, I just pretended like I was limped home, and then.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So how were you supposed to land? You're supposed to land and then roll front?
Yeah, so you're supposed to, if you're going to fall from a height, you're supposed to go with a little bit of forward momentum, land preferably on the balls of your feet.
So on the heel?
Not on the heel, on the
front,
very
right?
front.
On the
Because
ball.
the balls of your foot is like right behind your toes. That
got
area,
it.
the pad right there, that's the balls of your
Okay.
feet. You're landing there, and you're going to bend your knees immediately, so you're dissipating as much of that downward force as possible. But since you already have a bit of forward momentum, you're just going to immediately enter into a roll over your shoulder across your body to the opposite hip.
Interesting.
So you're just going to turn your downward momentum into forward momentum.
We've got roof access. I'll go try it.
Not with your knee. Wow.
But yeah, so you're basically turning downward momentum into forward momentum, and that you're way less likely to injure yourself if you're going that way against the floor than straight down.
What's been your worst injury?
Worst injury, haven't broken a bone, maybe an ankle sprain.
Okay.
I was out for a while. I landed on the way down sideways from a
Yeah.
dunk. So like it was outdoors too, so that hurt.
Ooh.
Yeah. I was out
Yeah.
for like a month. But no broken bones or ligaments.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played basketball all through high school, and ankle injuries were the worst for
All
me.
day. I used to get them all the time. I actually,
Yeah.
knock on wood, I haven't sprained my ankle in like a year now.
Yeah.
And I think that's due to just strength. And I do the vibration machine now.
Oh, good. So your
Yeah.
ankles are nice and strong. That's
Pretty
good.
strong, yeah.
The next best thing after that is also getting a flatter shoe, because when your heel is elevated, your foot is much less stable, and you can actually fall side to side. So these shoes that I have right here are literally just made of nothing.
Yeah, I just got flat ones with individual toes. Have you
Yeah,
seen
I
those?
have that. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Vibram 5 fingers. Oh
Yeah.
my god, I wear them about 50% of the
I
time
haven't
right
worn
now.
them yet. I'm afraid of getting judged, but
Oh yeah,
you've
you'll get
inspired
judged.
me to.
You will get judged,
You'll
but
get
they
judged,
are
yeah.
amazing. And you just go wear them for a walk or something. Or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
I might wear them on walks.
Because I have high, so I'm actually jealous. I have super high arches. Like
Yes.
super high arches. So
Mine are pretty high too.
I can't wear flat sole shoes at all. I mean, like, if
Really?
I wear like Jordan 1s, I have to put an insert in. My feet will just
Wow.
kill me. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes because I have pretty high arches too. It took when I first started. I'm actually lucky because I actually stumbled into the barefoot style shoe game. Because I was really into parkour in high school, and I got like this flat shoe because it was called the Ninja Zero for advanced parkour athletes. So I bought it. It was from this company called Olo, and I was wearing that. And then I was like, man, I need an even flatter shoe. And then I found these barefoot shoe companies, and so I was eased into it a little bit.
Nice.
But from all the people that I've introduced into barefoot shoes, there's like a 6-month period of like adjusting. So prepare for your feet to be very, very sore for the first
Really?
month or two. And if you start running in them, it's going to even compound. It's going to be very, very
Really?
difficult. Yeah, your whole walking pattern will change, and it's for the better in the long run. But in the short term, it is sore. It is painful.
Wow. Good to know.
There's an adaptation period for sure.
Apparently, shoes are like not designed for your feet to grow naturally.
No, yeah, they squish your toes together, so that's why we have problems like bunions and all this other stuff. And there's also there's this vein that comes through all the way into your foot, and when your toes are really, really squished together, that vein kind of gets cut off a little bit.
Oh wow.
So you don't get optimal blood flow to your foot. So it takes longer to heal from ankle sprains and foot injuries, and
that makes sense.
I think that's also why I've been able to almost like I can walk, I can jog now, and I think that's literally just because I have a flatter shoe.
Wow.
So that's what I would attribute it to. Yeah.
So the solution is the overall solution to the design of shoes being not made for our feet is a flatter shoe. The flatter you can go.
Flatter shoe, wider toe box.
Okay.
Those two things would solve most issues out there.
Okay.
Nike, if you're listening, give us a royalty on that.
And some shoes.
And some shoes, that'd be great.
David, where can people find you, man?
Yeah, you can find me anywhere, any platform out there. You just look up Movement by David, or my tagline is Stay Flexy. Google does its thing and it finds me, so stay flexy.
Love it, man. You got to trademark that.
I should, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay flexible. I'll see you next time.